Hey guys, today we're going to be tinting this 2020 Lexus UX 200. We're going to be using our HITEK IR ceramic window fill. We're going to be doing a full tint on this vehicle. We'll be doing 70% on the front windshield, 35% on the front door and quarter windows, and we're doing 20% in the back of the hatch and the rear window. Stay tuned. All right guys, first right now we're going to start with our preparation. What we're going to do right now is I am going to pull the panels to be able to do a one-stage install on this, just to get a cleaner install. Personal preference if you want to do a two-stage or one-stage. It doesn't take much time on this vehicle, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the panels and we'll start that now. There's 3 screws on this window to take off. First we'll start on the armrest. We'll just pull this piece up, slide it out, and you'll have 2 screws to remove. And like I said, the only reason we're doing this is just for a cleaner install. It's personal preference. In my opinion, it doesn't take too long, so might as well, I'd rather do it this way. Just gives me a little bit more room on the quarter as well, since it's so tight there on the bottom. Once you remove those, there's 1 more screw here behind the door handle. Just get a little wedge tool or a pick. And there is already a little groove there. Pop that panel up and there's 1 more screw. Once we have these, we can start pulling from the bottom. And then we'll just go ahead and reset the door in place with the bottom push pins. I'm not going to remove the door completely. I am just going to get it loose. Then just use the bottom push pins just to hold it in place while we do the installation. Now you can see that we have plenty of access to our window. We won't have anything in our way. It'll give me a little bit more room here on the quarter window. So this just makes it a little bit easier. Some vehicles are harder than others, but in this case, it was fairly straightforward. So we went ahead and pulled the panel. Same process on the rear door. It's gonna have some underneath this handle here, and you will have some behind the handle as well. Like I said, there is already a little area there where you can get a pry tool in there, whether it be a screwdriver or a pick tool. And then there are just some regular Phillips screws to remove the door. Like I said, this doesn't take long. So in my personal opinion on this install, just to help me, I'm going to go ahead and remove the screws. That's all the screws there. I'm going to go ahead and just put this back in place so it's not hanging. Make sure there's no screws on the bottom edge. Another reason why I removed it is these vehicles do have a felt edge here. This could ruin your day if you get, anything tucked on, touching the felt here. And the gasket is a little bit tight. So that's why we removed the door panel, and just to be able to stay free and clear of any of this felt. I might even add some tape there just to be on the safe side, and that's up to you as well. So now I'm just going to prop the panel up with the bottom clips just to be able to hold it while we do the installation. I'm going to go ahead and remove the rest of the doors, and then we'll jump to the front windshield prep. Okay guys, now that we've removed all the door panels, that's that part of the prep. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the prep for the front windshield and the rear window. I am going to take off this wiper just to give me more access. Some people will wedge something underneath it, another squeegee or something. I would just rather remove it. It's 1 screw. You don't have to remove it completely if you don't want. but it's totally up to you. This will just make it a little bit easier so I can set up my window and we'll be able to shape without anything in our way. Now we're gonna jump to the prep on the front and back. I'm gonna go ahead and put my shrink solution on there, which is a mix of alcohol and Dove shampoo that's diluted into a bottle that I let sit for a while. Personal preference on that also. Some people use baby powder, dryer sheets. There's all kinds of stuff now, but I've just found that this works for me, and we'll go through that right now. We're gonna get our back window ready. I'm gonna go ahead and just wipe this off. Just get any dirt, debris, anything that's off of it. And then we'll apply our shrink solution. Like I said, just taking the handle off makes it a little bit easier in my opinion. You don't have to worry about shaping around it, wedging anything in underneath it. So now that we've got our surface clean, I'm gonna go ahead and spray our shrinking solution on here. Being that it's alcohol, it does dry pretty quick. I just spray it on there, kind of just even it out with my hand. You can use a paper towel. Like I said, it dries pretty quick. Once it hazes up, it's gonna be able to help you shape the window. I kind of like this method because after I shrink, my fingers do stay down. They don't come back and I'm not double or triple shrinking. I've just found that this helps me a lot. But like I said, personal preference is to what you want to use to shape the back windows. All right guys, now that we have our back window prepped, we're gonna go ahead and load our plotter. The plotter we'll be using today is a Workhorse 2. We're gonna do IR ceramic 20 on the back of the vehicle. We're gonna go ahead and load this into the plotter. We are gonna be using our film cut program to cut out the patterns. And this show here, you're gonna lay with the liner out. This is a 36" and this will cover pretty much anything in the back for this vehicle. We will be using a 36" roll for this. We also will be cutting the doors out of this roll as well. So now that we have it on here, you're always gonna have to adjust your settings. I'm gonna start with about 135 and we'll see how it cuts from there. We'll run a few tests. Basically what you're gonna do is you'll set up your settings. You have to adjust your settings, you'll have to run your tests. Once all your tests are complete, you don't want to waste any film as well while you're cutting. I think we're pretty good there dialed in. We were able to weed it out. So now we're going to go ahead and trim off where we're doing our test spot. And then we'll go to our program and start setting up. Okay guys, now we're gonna go ahead and start plotting the patterns. We did already open up our film cut program. We went to the menu here. We're gonna go ahead and select tint patterns. We're gonna go to 2020. Then we'll select the year, make, and model of the vehicle. So this is a Lexus. It's a UX 200 SUV. Right now we're going to be cutting out the back window. All right guys, now that we've changed our width on our roll, we're using a 36" roll. We've selected the back glass, one piece. It does already cut out everything that we don't have to be messing and cutting out of the glass. Once you're ready, our plotter's set up. We already did our chest pieces. We'll press cut. It'll send it to the plotter and we'll start cutting out our pattern. Now that our pattern's cut, we'll feed it a little forward a little bit just to get rid of the, so we don't make sure we don't cut into our pattern. And then get slip up. Well, we'll go ahead and start the weeding process, and that's just taking out any excess film that's left on there. So basically we're just wanting to cut our pattern. Everybody's different as far as personal preference. I like to leave a little bit of, I'm not gonna weed it out completely. I'm gonna leave a little border of it around there and I'll weed it after. So right now I'm just basically just trimming right around the edge of the pattern. And then we'll go set it up on the glass and get it ready to shape. Our shape solution has already dried. I'll show you what that looks like right now. Now we have our pattern what we're gonna use, so we're gonna jump to the installation. All right, guys, like I said before, we prepped our window already with our shaping solution. As you can see, it's already dried out. It's ready to go. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little tack on the window. We're gonna bring our pattern to the window and get ready to shape. This is gonna get a little bit tight at the end, but I'm gonna shape the bottom first and then we'll kind of move it down a little bit to be able to get the top. Right now I'm just gonna secure the pattern to the window. Like I said, we'll be shaping this in 2 pieces. Since this does kind of hit up here with this wing, I'm gonna move it down a little bit and then we'll start to shape. We'll start shaping the back glass, and what we're doing right now is basically trying to get the tint to conform to the shape of the glass. You do that by heating up the fingers, shrinking the film down. Once that's done, we'll be ready to lay the pattern. Just be careful if it does go through, but at least you're not going to be cutting into your pattern. I'm actually probably just gonna go ahead and remove it so it doesn't get in the way. I'll just remove this section. It's wanting to grab here also, so I'll just remove it. It was just went through a little bit too much, but it's not a problem. And like I said, right now we're just making sure that we shape it on the outside just so we don't have any problems during the installation on the inside. Just make sure the pattern lays flat on the glass. You're gonna know that you have pattern that's ready for install. So now, like I said, since it does touch the top up here, we're gonna move it down a little bit just to be able to shape the top. I'm not gonna move it down much. I'm just gonna move it just enough to be able to have some room at the top to shape. The same process, just all of these fingers, we're heating them up, pressing them down just to get it to conform to the shape of the glass. By moving it down, I was able to shape it a little bit versus fighting it up here. You don't want to go down too far because of course the curvature of the window is different from the top to the bottom, but just moving it down a little bit's not gonna hurt. Right now that we're shaped, we can go ahead and start the prep on the inside, and we'll get to that next. Gonna go ahead and remove this pattern. I'll go ahead and put it on my peel board. I need to wipe off all of our streaking solution off the back so we can make sure that we get the window as clean as possible. So right now we're just gonna lay this on our peel board. So we are gonna get all of our shrinking solution off of the back so that we can make sure we can clean it from the inside. Make sure we don't have anything on the inside of the window. Just get this back glass cleaned. Now we'll start the prep of the window. So we are going to use a white scrub pad. You can use clay bar as well if you have any defrosters that are really tricky. Some vehicles have trickier defrosters, Mustang, anything Dodge. This seems pretty okay. It's a fairly new vehicle. It actually is pretty clean, so that makes a big difference as well, but I can't stress to you enough that just the prep work is what's going to help you as well as with your installation. Now that we've scrubbed it, we're going to go ahead and squeegee off
Put them in the soak the water. Now that we've got our window clean, put our slip solution on. Go get our pattern from the peel board. Since the hatch is open, I'll grab it upside down and take it to the window. Like I said, we did use a pre-cut pattern, so that's why we didn't have to cut out this pattern on the back. Just to make it a little bit more efficient if you're doing several vehicles a day. Also, it just helps from some of these vehicles with really soft glass, whether you use stainless steel blades or not. Sometimes they're still scratched, so this just eliminates any of those issues. Okay, so we've got our pattern on, it's in place. So now we'll go ahead and just start squeegeeing out the water. Just want to make sure you give thorough passes. Get all your moisture out. And again, this is our ceramic IR20. So it's just gonna be like what a factory privacy glass would be. It won't be too dark, but you will still have great visibility. Really good heat rejection as well. And you don't bother any visibility at all. But I'm gonna go ahead and just knock them out from the inside. There's no felt, there's no headliner here, so you don't really have to worry about burning anything. Just a little bit of the plastic is exposed. Like I said, we're just gonna introduce a little bit of heat. Get these fingers to lay down. And this window's done, we'll move on to the windshield.
All right, guys, now that we finished the back window, we're going to jump to the front windshield. We'll just still be using our ceramic IR. This will be a 70%. This will pass inspection in Texas. There's different requirements for different cities, different states. We are going to put 70% on the whole windshield. Right now, I'm going to just wipe everything down on the outside, and then we'll go ahead and prep it with our shaping solution. Right now, I'm just kind of getting anything extra that I can get off of it. You don't want to leave any contaminants under there, any debris that can mess up your film while you're shaping. I like to clean a little bit around the area as well. Get it nice and clean. Now that we have that wiped down, I'm going to go ahead and grab our shaping solution. We'll put it on there, we'll let it sit, and then we'll go ahead and cut out our pattern while this dry goes. You don't need much, like I said, with the alcohol it dries pretty quick. I like to apply it, we just kind of spread it around with my hand, just helps it dry. So make sure you cover the whole area. Take our 20% off of the powder. We will grab our 70, and then we'll go ahead and find the weak fill pattern and film cut, and we'll get that pattern cut off. We are going to be using 70%. There, just a 40-inch roll. This is just going to help any glare, UV. Help keep the dash protected as well from drying out. And this film just looks really, really nice, clear, easy to see through. It just gives you that little bit of extra protection in the front of your vehicle, which front windshield is a very big piece of glass.
Go to film cut, look for our window. We'll go ahead and delete the back pattern that was done. They do have the windshield, so we'll go ahead and make sure. Looks like it has a cutout there for a heads-up display, which it does have the camera, so we do have the right pattern. We're set up there. I'm going to go ahead and backfeed a little bit of this on. I like to backfeed some of this in the back, as far as just let it hang out into the back of the cradle here. For the reason being, on a new roll, sometimes it's heavy. It initially wants to jerk. You might have a little, miscommunication with your pattern and the knife to where it doesn't complete the cut. So I just like to feed some a little bit in there as much as I can. That way it's just a little gradual, and it's not that big of a deal on a empty roll or a half-used roll as it is a new roll that's a lot heavier. So that's just something you can do to just prevent, a little hiccup in the cutting process. So we're ready to cut. We'll press cut and it'll send it to the file. Now that the plotter's ready, just go ahead and feed a little bit forward so it'll cut through our pattern. We'll take it to the peel board. All we're doing at this step is removing any excess, so we have a more manageable pattern. While you're weaning, you always want to pull away from your pattern. You just, in case it doesn't cut all the way through, you don't run into a problem of tearing your pattern. I always like to just peel away from it. Once you get the majority of it off, I'll go ahead and trim back some of the lining, just so we have a more manageable pattern. The less that we have to mess with, the better. It should be okay. It's just a little learning curve, and like I said, if they're in a climate controlled area, I find my cousin just kind of leaves them sitting in the shop for a little bit before he takes them out. Now that we have everything weeded out, we're going to go ahead and prep the windshield. Just get it ready. Like I say, we did use a computer cut pattern. I mean, the only benefit to this is it's a little bit quicker. You don't have to have anybody hold the light. In this case, it's not a problem because you can see through this film. It's pretty much clear, but it just eliminates having to cut on the glass. Some of the newer vehicles, the glass is very finicky and can, scratch them really easy. So it's always best, if you can, not to cut on the vehicle. I recommend not to. There's also several different options you can use. There's a glass aid, which is a Teflon string that you could put around the windshield to go ahead and see your pattern. But in this case, like I said, we used a computer cut pattern, and we'll be able to see through the pattern if we were going to hand cut it with this clear film. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm just setting everything up so it'll stay in place while we shape. And then we'll go ahead and shape the window so that it can conform to the glass. Make sure we get all the figures out on the shape on the outside, so we're not fighting anything while we are installing it on the inside.
Alright guys, now that we have the window shaped, we're gonna go ahead and take it to our fill board so we can get the rest of the prep done on this window. Alright guys, now we're just gonna go ahead and wipe down the exterior of the window, get it nice and clean. We can get it prepped for the inside. Make sure we get all of our shrinking solution off so we can see and make sure that we have the HITEK window. We did use a computer cut pattern, although we are gonna have to still make a cut. On this car, the customer had a sensor or a mount for a camera that is hard to remove and replace, so they just want to cut around it. It is toward the top of the blackout, so it will not be a problem. And I'll show you how we're going to do that when we reach that point. Right now I'm going to wipe down the exterior window. We'll go ahead and put our dash red on, and we'll start prepping the interior of the window for the window fill. I'm going to go ahead and put on our dash cover. This is just, it is necessary just to be on the safe side so that we don't wet any electronics. Some of these dashboards now are leather wrapped, so that can become a problem as well. It actually has a soak rope built into the end of it, so this will knock out two birds with one stone. You can use a dash cover if you want, or a dash towel and a soak rope separate. This one just happens to have it built in. Now we'll start to prep it. You don't need a lot of solution, just to be on the safe side. Like I said, we're gonna make sure that we clean it thoroughly, especially around the edges, the dot matrix. And like I said, just take a little bit of time on your prep work. It'll make it a lot easier. It will just make it a little better on the install side of it. You don't have to second guess anything. Like I said, the customer did opt out of cutting or removing this sensor, so we will have to cut around it. This is the factory sensor that it has, but that was cut out in the program, so we don't have to worry about that. Now that we've got it clean, we'll start squeegeeing it off, inspecting it, make sure we have a clean window. Again, a lot of the times people miss the back of the mirrors. They're not always the cleanest. Some people just don't clean them, they forget to, so just wipe down everything that you can. It looks like we're ready. Wipe down the plastics again. Then we'll go ahead and get this window with the split solution on there. Then we'll get ready to head to the peel boards, grab our patterns, and we will be using the reverse roll method, California roll, whatever you like to call it, on this vehicle instead of a Frankenstein, just to eliminate any trash, and it'll be a little bit easier to get around the mirror. If you don't have any help, I recommend that method, the California roll method. So we are going to have to peel the lining. We'll peel it back 50-50, get it wet. We'll leave the liner still on there. Then we'll go ahead and roll it. And that way we can be a little bit more manageable versus doing a Frankenstein. As I said, it's personal preference, whichever method you want to do. I just think on this vehicle right now that we're doing, this is going to be the best method for me. Make sure we get any of the air out if we can. Like I said, it's still going to be floating there. It's not going to tack up or anything, because we do have our snip solution. Like I said, we will be using the California roll method on this. Our rider's there, floating. And go ahead and start to roll our pattern. Okay, the way that we've rolled it up, we're gonna start on the driver's side and work our way to the passenger side. So what we're gonna do now that we have it rolled up is we'll peel back a little bit of the liner exposing the film, just give us enough to put it on the window itself. And then go ahead and start to run it across the window. Once it's on there, then we'll be able to put it in the final position.
Go ahead and put it in place. And just go ahead and roll out the pattern. Like I said, this method might just help until you get, some people like to Frankenstein it. It's just, like I said, everybody has personal preference on how they like to install their film. I think this just makes it a little bit more manageable. Just be careful with that soak rope though, because you will have to make sure you tuck underneath it. Start squeezing up the pattern. Again, this is our ceramic IR, HITEK ceramic IR 70. And here in Texas, this will pass inspection. I'm gonna get as much of it out as I can. I go back and heat my edges, I towel them, just extra precaution, so that way we don't have any peel back. Just make sure we get all of this moisture out. Got a little piece of film there. Again, this was at the customer's request. Right now I'm just going over the edges. We're toweling the edges just to make sure all the moisture's out. Kind of make sure everything is wanting to stick to the Teflon. It's not an absolute necessary step. It's just something that I like to do. Just peace of mind that I'm not going to have anything coming back with any fingers. Again, I'm heating it up from the outside. You can do it from the inside as well if you're comfortable.
All right, guys, now that we finished the windshield, I am gonna leave the soak rope and the dash towel on there just to let the bottom edge seal before we pull it. Like I said, that can be one problem area. I like to let it sit, seal that edge, and just make sure it's nice and dry before we pull that off. While we're doing that, we're gonna go ahead and cut out the two front doors now. We're gonna switch our roll from our 70% HITEK ceramic IR. We're gonna be swapping it out with the legal limit of 35% for the two front doors. And then we'll jump to our fill cut program and cut that out. So again, we're doing 20 on the back, 70 on the windshield, and the 35 on the two front doors. Again, we're seated behind our static line or static rope. That just helps reduce a little bit of the static that's on the film that happens in transport just from being rolled on itself. Feed it through. Again, every time, I know we already have it dialed in. Sometimes films are different from pressures. It all depends. And just to be on the safe side, I like to go ahead and run my test again, which we'll do now. Like I said, what we're trying to accomplish here is just being able to weed out the film, not go through, and be able to not cut through the release liner. Looks like we're set up pretty good there, so we're good to go. Just go ahead and set our boundary. We're ready. Now we're going to go ahead and cut out the two front doors. The two front doors do have a small quarter window, so I guess we'll go ahead and cut all of those out. We're going to switch the width of the film to a 24. Okay, and press cut and we'll be ready to go. Feed it just so we don't cut into our pattern. Take it to our field board and start weeding out this pattern. Shades out for a quarter window. Go
Go ahead and trim some of the excess off, and then we'll weed out our pattern. Cut out our right side. So now we'll delete these, open up our right patterns, set them up, which you got it where we're wanting. Press cut. Again, the plotter that we're using is the Workhorse one. It's a great plotter, available at Tint Depot. We did already pull the door panels on the two front doors. So all that'll be left to do on that would be prep them, clean them, make sure all of our edges are clean. Windshield in the rear window. We're gonna shape our window so that we're not fighting any fingers on the inside. And like I said, this will just help conform to the glass. That way we don't have any fingers on the inside, or as minimal as least as possible. I like to set up all my doors, then I'll come back and do the shaping. Again, this is just going to be a step that can help your install. Now we're ready to start shaping the window. Grab our heat gun. So right now we're just letting the glass, the window, the tint conform to the window. We're shaping it so it'll grab the same curvature of the glass. It's not going to be such a problem now if we have any fingers after the installation, because we do have the panel peeled, so we don't have to worry about any dirt being sucked back into the pattern. But if you two-stage it, it could be a problem. So this might be a step that you really want to take your time on. Make sure that everything's shaped correctly, just to minimize any fingers on the inside. I like to go over my top edge a little bit. This one's ready. We'll jump to the other side. You can do this on the vehicle, or you can make your own fingers on your peel board, whatever's easier. I just prefer this method. Now that both windows are shaped, we'll go ahead and put them both back on the peel board, and we'll start to prep the windows on the inside and get them ready for the window tint. Now we'll start the prep on this door, get it ready for window tint. So we're going to scrub it thoroughly, make sure we get all the edges as well. These don't have any felt on the edges, so there's no taping required on something like this. You do just want to make sure that you get it nice and clean. With the door panel pulled, we're able to clean really well on the bottom. Be able to get the top edge really well, and then I like to roll down the windows all the way completely and wipe down the gaskets as well. And that's just an extra step that just prevents any other contaminations from coming back in. Make sure we get our pattern wet with our slip solution so it doesn't tack on us. I air peeled it just because I don't have a peel board available. And like I said, just removing the door panel helps us get this in here a little bit easier. Make sure we tuck our edges all the way in. This does have a pretty good tuck left to right, which is another reason why I like to two-stage these, so we don't have to worry about any creases in the two-stage process. We're able to just tuck it in all at once, line up our top edge. I'd like to make sure that we're all the way over on this edge. We're good there. So we tack our top edge. Put a nice tight edge on there. Work your corners really well. That way when you're ready to Roll up the window, we don't have any problems there. So I like to try and get as much moisture out as I can. Right now that this window's done, we'll jump to our quarter window. This one's gonna be a little tricky. It's hard to reach. There is a rubber gasket on it that we're gonna have to tuck behind, but at least it makes it a little bit easier with the panel pulls. So we did use a pre-cut pattern. So we'll have to see exactly how it is. We do have a special control. It was developed to be able to work in these little small intricate areas. Okay, so let's get some prep on there. We did use computer cut patterns on this Lexus. It's a 2020 UX 200. So we're gonna see how these fit. They said they're usually cut pretty right on. The main thing, like on here, like I said, is just gonna be being able to tuck in all these rubbers, but we are able to maneuver it pretty well in here. Just make sure that all of it gets below it. Such a small pattern, you have to be careful. It is going to want to move on you. It's just not a lot to tack right away. This little tool definitely helps get in there. Make sure everything's tucked on those sides. Make sure we really work this top edge. And that pattern fit really well. Like I said, specialty tools sometimes help you a lot as well. A lot of the tools that I'm using right now, we can find at tintdepot.com. Have an assortment of tools for every application. It just makes life a whole lot easier when you have specialty tools versus using just using stuff that's not, you know, meant for what it's used for. Just specialty tools help out a lot. Like I said, the majority of the tools that I'm using today, we can find at tintdepot.com. But definitely that little quarter squeegee helped out a lot. All right, this side of the vehicle is done. We'll move on to the driver's side. Going to be the same process, the driver door, driver quarter. Just kind of wipe this down a little bit. I am going to go ahead and put it back on where to do that, you're just going to bring it over the top. And this is going to slide in from the top. So the gasket's attached to the window. Press it down. Everything should fall back into place. And I'm going to go ahead and just leave it like that, just in case we have to do any touch-ups for whatever reason. We're not having to take it all apart. But for the most part, this side of the vehicle is done. We'll jump to the driver's side. All right, guys, now we're going to prep the front the driver door now. Same way we did on the passenger side. Just make sure we clean all of our edges. Since we did pull the panel, we're able to clean a little bit further down than we would if we were in a two-stage. Put our slip solution in. We'll go to the peel board, grab our pattern. With the front side, make sure we get it all the way down. And we'll make sure we get all the way over. Like I said, this does have a little tuck left to right. So removing the panel helps a little bit. We like to come to the outside and just make sure that we're either tucked enough or make sure that we're not tucked too much. Okay, you can bunch up there and then it'll just be a nightmare trying to get it to lay down. So we'll line up our edge, leave a nice little micro edge there. Then we'll start to squeegee out our film. So it looks like we're all lined up. Make sure everything's nice and clean. Now we finished that, we'll move on to the prep of the quarter. Make sure we get it nice and clean, all the rubber edges. I like to try and flush out whatever we can. Peel this rubber back, flush down in there really well. And we'll use our little quarter squeegee to get all the way in there, which is sometimes impossible without the help of this tool or tools like it. Specialty tools, like I said, will help you a lot, make it a lot easier. Now that we've got that prepped, make sure to wipe off everything around it, above it. We'll go grab our pattern and we'll put this one on. Add some slip. Just take your time. The main thing is just making sure the placement is well. But this also, like I said, with these patterns, they're cut to be pretty exact, and they work really well. It just takes less time to get the vehicle tinted, especially like I said, if you're doing several vehicles in one day. This definitely cuts down a lot of the time it takes to hand cut patterns. Now we'll start to squeegee out the moisture. Like I said, with the help of this tool, just helps so much. Make sure we get all the water out. Said all the tools that we're using today can be found at tintdepot.com. The workhorse plotter can be found at plotterdepot.com, and they're just going to be, I am going to have to use a triangle to get up here at this very edge where we tuck behind. Get all that moisture out, tuck everything, and we're good to go. This window's done. I am going to go ahead and just, like I said, slide this panel back on. Not going to fully put it on, but so it's not hanging anymore. Everything looks good there, so we'll move to the back. Same thing on this, we'll scrub the windows really well. This back quarter also is gonna have a little bit of tucking that we're gonna. Okay guys, now that we took off our 35%, we put on our ceramic IR20 on the plotter again. We're going to cut out the rear patterns. I'm gonna go ahead and run some more tests just to make sure. I like to run tests every time we switch film. We just never know. We look pretty good there. We're not through, so we know that we're lined up, ready to go. Now we'll go to the rear doors, which are back here. So we're gonna just do them individually. Well, we can do them maybe possibly both. We'll change this to 36-inch width. And the rear doors and quarters, they will both sit on here. Space these out a little bit just to give us some room and to be able to get everything out of them. So now that everything's ready, position, press cut, and we'll send it to the fire. Now that our pattern's cut, same thing, move it forward a little bit just so we don't cut into our pattern. Shave it out, take it to our peel board, start reading out the film. Go ahead and get these quarters out of here. All right, now we got everything cut out. We'll go to the vehicle. We'll prep the back windows for the window tubes. So we'll flush out all of these gaskets. Make sure we get everything in there. Scrub the window really well, thoroughly. Try and get it as high up in there. A lot of these gaskets where you have to tuck in there do hold a lot of dirt. Like I said, this is a newer vehicle, so thankfully it's on the cleaner side. So I like to take my time in the prep. This could ruin your day. Just make sure you always look for anything. I don't even know where that came from, but just to be really thorough in your cleaning process, it can help a lot. Okay, start at the top, flush everything out that we can, work the back gasket. We'll grab our quarter window, make sure which one it is, so I'm gonna grab both. Try and work my way from the top to the bottom, that way I can make sure we get everything nice and tucked. Try and get it as high as I can and work this bottom edge, make sure it all tucks in there. This side here is a little tricky because it wants to butt up against there. But like I said, if you can't see from where you're at on the inside, move to the outside, get better visibility. Make sure we kind of tuck all of this behind there. I think we're set up good there. Now we'll go ahead and squeegee it out. Put some slip on there, just be careful since it's not tacked on there too well. Kind of put one finger on it, something to hold it into place. Once you start squeegeeing, well then you'll be able to put a little bit more pressure. It'll be tacked, it won't move on you. So we're just gonna be really thorough, make sure we squeegee out as much moisture as we can. That way we don't leave anything on the lip that'll wanna peel back later. Okay, we've got the sides tucked in. Like I said, if you can't see from where you're at, all of this here from the outside, you can see that now we're able to get all the way up in there. Tucked everything down. This is another thing, you want to make sure that you line up your window left to right. They do have play, so that could also leave gaps sometimes if you don't adjust it. So I'll adjust it to the position it's supposed to be in, so I don't have to worry about readjusting it later. You can start on the long side. Make sure we get all of our sewn down. Make sure we tuck into the long side first. This is where it has more of the tuck. And then we'll work the short side, line everything up. To say leave as close to the top as you can. I like to leave a little micro edge. I don't shave the top of the windows or anything like that, so I just get it as close as I can. And like I said, with this program, it helps a lot because the cuts are really on point. I mean, you don't have to worry about that way you don't run into any problems when you go to roll it up and it shifts and then your pattern's short. So it's just something to look out as well. A lot of the vehicles have that play. It's just something that I've learned to check. That way you don't have any problems. Okay, so with this pattern done, I'm gonna do the same thing. And just clean door panel back on there. Now we can move on to the other side. Just make sure we get underneath everything here. Try and line it up best we can. Make sure we tuck below this gasket here. Like I said, this longer side on this side is going to be the tricky part because that gasket's a little tighter. So just be careful on your initial squeegee pass because it's not tacked yet. Can still move on you, so just be careful with it. Here we'll go ahead and use our triangle to be able to tuck everything, and then we'll give it our final pass. Okay, we're good. Spray our slip solution and we're ready to put the window on. So I'm going to start with the long side first, make sure we're tucked in here. Make sure we're lined up on the top edge. We'll start our final pass. Work all of our corners. Make sure those are all nice and squeegee down before we roll up the window. Beginning, work all our edges. Make sure we get the corners really well. Again, just check it from the outside, make sure we don't have any dabs, any moisture left behind. Everything looks good.
Now that all the windows are done, we're gonna go and put all of the screws back in the door panels. Make sure all of those are put on securely. Then we'll go ahead and just start the final cleanup. Give it a walk around, make sure we don't have any fingers that popped up, anything that needs to be touched up.